here. Good morning, all, and welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I am Dana DuBois, and this is not Lawrence Winterman because today is Thursday, and that means it is Fine Feminist Hour takeover of the Daily Whatever Show. And I am thrilled to welcome you here today, Dr. Connor. Do you want me to call you Dr. Connor? Do you want me to call?
You can call me Yamicia.
Sorry?
I apologize to everyone in your audience. I am very under the weather, but I wanted to be here. But you can call me Yamicia.
Yamicia. Is the Y pronounced a little like a J?
It's pronounced like a J. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Yamicia, that's beautiful. It is so nice to meet you. Kira is expressing her joy at seeing you this morning. Lawrence and I like to joke that the show should be sponsored by Nature-Naws. If anyone knows who owns the company, who owns the sticks that keep the Daily Whatever Show going, here we go. Yamicia, before we get going too much, I want to make sure that we are all up and connected here on Substack because I'm a little bit worried that maybe we are not. But let me just navigate here over to the Daily Whatever Show. We are, thank goodness, we are done correctly. Oh, the technical issues on Substack. And this would be just my technical know-how running the Substack to StreamYard connection myself.
Well, we had to simplify. We do everything on Zoom because we could not figure out StreamYard, and I'm like, I literally can't process another thing. I know how to use Zoom. I know how to log in. That's what we're using. And so, yes.
Oh my gosh! So you podcast? You go live through Zoom?
We go live through Zoom. Yes.
That's fascinating.
We do our clinic appointments through there. We do. So it's just like we need to simplify is what I tell my team. Because when you're just like, I have 3 kids, you can probably hear them making as much possible noise as because they love being really rowdy, especially when they know I'm doing anything that requires quiet. And when you have 3 kids, you run a company, just doing like the things of living. I'm a practicing physician. You just have to try to simplify as much as possible. So yeah, we got rid of all. We tried all of those, and we just do everything through Zoom.
Oh my gosh. You might be like blowing my mind a little bit. Substack is having a very, they're changing features rapidly. And this week anyhow, we started our show yesterday, Lawrence and I, with a rant about the 3 entity limit here on Substack. It doesn't matter so much today because there's the Daily Whatever Show, there's you and me, we're just 3. But normally I have a co-host, and that means we can't all put everybody on the live as of this week. We're not connecting the chats, we're not building our... So Substack, if you're listening, I'm still shaking my fist at you. But mostly, I want to rejoice that we are finally meeting because you reached out to me, I think it's been like a month that we've been waiting to go live together. I have seen in the interim, you have been live with some wonderful people. Walter Ryan is coming to mind. I saw that you were live with him. I'm trying to remember who else, but I've definitely seen your face around and been like, I cannot wait to meet her. So welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. In our impromptu intro there, you have disclosed a lot about yourself, but I would love if you would formally introduce yourself to the folks at home. And while Yamicia is doing that, I would love if everyone in the chat would hit that little heart button, because that helps signal to everyone out on Substack that we are here and that you should love us and come join. So with that, please take the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Dr. Yamicia Connor. I am a mother of 3. I'm a practicing OBGYN. I usually don't sound like this. I'm like hearing my own voice. I'm like, oh my God.
Sounds rather sultry. I like it.
My daughter keeps saying like, what's wrong with your voice, mommy? What's wrong with your voice? I'm like, kids don't understand like when they're sick, the whole world collapses to them. But when you're sick, It's like, it does not compute. Anyways, so I am the founder and CEO of a clinical company called DuBois. And we like to describe Diosada as an emergency obstetrical infrastructure company. And everyone's
Ooh.
probably like, "What the hell is that?" You don't need to understand what that is. You just have to understand our mission. So we have a impending birth worker crisis. The way we describe it, we have a lot of different analogies, but we are in a car driving full speed ahead, and the cliff is coming, and no one's preparing for it. So we are doing some of that work. And as a part of
Oh my
that
gosh.
body of work, we have started the Labor Collective, which is our medical community. This is our public face. This is, I'm here today representing that. And it does exactly this. It provides us a way to get messages out, speak to the external world, get good information out to our patients and then the broader public. And then also kind of more broadly, serve as a organizing infrastructure in women's health, because that's one of the things that makes it really hard to build in this space, is because it's probably no surprise to the people in this audience, this is a very underfunded space, especially if you're focused around Black maternal health. And so how do you build with very little capital? Well, you have to build as a community, and that's part of the work we're doing.
Incredible. First of all, I am so thrilled to hear that your organization exists because I have so many thoughts on this, but the one coming to mind is I've never been so glad to be menopausal because this is a really hard time to be a woman of childbearing years for so many reasons. And one of them is the more draconian the abortion laws become, I have to think the fewer doctors who are willing to practice OBGYN medicine. And that makes all all women who want to have babies at risk, right? Like if there are not
Absolutely.
enough doctors, if the doctors can't provide the medical care that
Yeah.
some women need, because not every pregnancy runs smoothly and not every baby can come to term. Um,
Yeah.
wow, the decisions that OBGYNs like you have to make both about your patients on a daily basis and about yourselves professionally, like, can I keep doing this work? Must be staggering right now.
Yeah, I mean, so you can think of it, people in the audience might have heard of like Swiss cheese models, like when,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that keep the ground from falling beneath us. But sometimes when you have perfect alignment, right, that's when you get true, catastrophes, right? Like that's what, COVID is an example of that. And in the birthing world, we are in that situation. And so what do I mean by perfect alignment? So as you said, there's a huge birth worker crisis, like just literally
Yes.
not enough bodies on the ground. We are losing another 5 to 7,000 OBGYNs in the next 5 years. Our
Mhm.
workforce, over half our workforce is over 50 and plus. And there's no one coming in to replace them, because people are not, as you mentioned, like people don't want to match into OBGYN. Medical students don't want, but well, people don't want to do this profession anymore, right? Because it is
Right.
political, it is complicated, and it just seems like a lot to a young person. And we're not getting replaced. And I always tell people, like, making a new doctor is not a fast project. Even if I started
No,
today, it takes me about 2 decades, right? It'll take us like a good 15 years, until you have
sure.
on the other side of that someone who's fully able to practice, right? And so what that means is we literally will not have enough bodies, to take care of, women. And this is in a country where this is the most dangerous country to have a baby, period.
Right. I am. I want to. I think I'm looking to see if, excuse me, Karen put this link in the chat yet, and I don't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and put. You built this beautiful web page, and manufactured laboracollective.com. And I love the car metaphor that it uses throughout. I love how data driven it is. I'm directing folks there to go take a look at the site at your leisure. Could you repeat the numbers that you just said
Yeah.
about 2 minutes ago about there were 5 to 7,000 leaving?
Yeah.
They were really they whizzed by really quickly and startled me at the same time. So I'd like to underline them and have you repeat it.
Yeah, so our workforce is aging. We over half of OBGYNs are over 50. You all have probably noticed that if people are trying to schedule routine pap smear, I mean, that's a long waiting list. People are telling you what, 6 months, maybe next year. You can't come in to see. You probably haven't seen a doctor in a very long time, to be very honest. You're probably seeing either midwives, NPs, physician's assistants. The doctor is somewhere in some back office that is seeing only the sickest patients, right? And the underlying cause of that is we are in a severe birth worker shortage. Our population is aging. I'm, what you consider, I'm young, but I am mid-career, right? I turned 40 this year. I have already been in practice for several years, and there's no one coming up behind us. That's the other thing. There are some in Idaho, I think, outside of the big medical centers, there are like 23 physicians. That's it, covering the
In all of
majority.
Idaho?
So there are some in the big medical centers, but in most of rural Idaho, there are 23 people, 23 OBGYNs on last
Oh
count.
my God.
That's a department, and some departments have a hard time even covering call, right? Because the thing about babies is they come when they come, right? So that means you need
Yes.
coverage 24/7, 365 days a year. There is not a day off. There is not, you have to cover that call pool every single moment, because in those gaps is when the emergency happens, and
Yes.
places simply cannot cover their call. And so what is happening is there are less and less physicians being deployed. The physicians are just in large medical centers, but that is not where most people deliver babies. And so I had a kind of frightening, but confirmatory conversation like 2 weekends ago when I was on call, because I still actively take call, mostly in rural
Sure.
settings. And I was speaking to an ED physician. I'm trying to get him to come and write some stories for us. But he is like a big thing in the emergency medicine world is, they have their physicians having to do emergency C-sections, emergency
Yes.
vertical midline incisions in the
Ooh.
emergency rooms, because there's simply no one else.
Excuse me.
Where you are going to be in a position where your general surgeon is going to be the only surgeon who's able, who's literally staffed at that hospital, because some facilities do not staff OBGYNs anymore. They don't staff 24/7 anesthesia. The labor and delivery units are the highest costs, one of the highest cost centers in the hospital, because you need a couple things, right, to be able to do it safely. You need
Mm.
at least one OB, right? And
Yeah.
that poor human being, even with like excellent midwives, I mean, that's essentially you're on call 24/7. You might not be literally
Right.
in the building, but you need to be available for emergencies, right? So in practice, you can't just have like one person to actually cover a unit and not have people go insane. You need at least three
Right.
bodies, right? Like three OB staff there. And
Sure.
that's running a really tight ship, right? But then you need 24/7 nursing coverage, and you need at least two nurses, and then usually a postpartum nurse. That's three nurses, and then you need someone to take care of the baby. If the baby comes out compromised, well, you need
Yeah.
at least a neonatal NP, right? Ideally, an intensivist like a NICU attending, you would like to have, but at the very least, you need an NP who can intubate the baby. Because if you have a birthing
Yeah.
unit, you're going to get preterm births, right? You're going to get, and this is the minimal infrastructure that you need in order to do this safely. And because it's expensive, and
Yeah.
because a lot of the community hospitals are essentially being acquired by private equity, that's getting cut. It's just gone. And even if we had the money, we don't have the bodies, right? And so it's like
Right.
problem after problem after problem. And then not to mention, this is at the very same time as Medicaid is being cut. A half of
Yes.
babies are born on Medicaid. That and if
Saw
you're
that
in
on your site. It
you're in those
was like
rural.
42%.
Oh yeah, but that's all. That is that's national data. If you're in Louisiana, it's like 60% or over. Medicaid is paying
Yeah.
for those births, right?
Right.
Um,
What part of the country are you in? You don't have to be specific, but general? Are you in?
I tell people I'm in North Carolina. Yeah.
Okay.
So, say you see
Oh,
my
a baby.
yeah, you will hear them. My poor husband's by himself, and so you know, uh, like Medicaid was gutted, right? But not just Medicaid, but WIC, Head Start. I mean, they are just
Snap.
or SNAP, like they are decimating the social safety network. And so it's like at the same time that they're making all these legal restrictions that essentially force women into pregnancy. And
That's where
you
that's where my brain is going of like, my next question is going to be all around, let's talk Dr. Oz and the notion that we are under babied. I've been talking about that a lot this week. I've made a couple of video reels about it and talked about it with our guest on Tuesday. I'm in the process of writing an article about this. I wish I had it up in time for today, but I think we're going to have very similar points of view on this of like, what do you do when someone at the highest level of visibility in the government is making statements like, we are under babied? What do you have to say to that turn
what
of
I
phrase?
yeah. So when people so this is the problem, and this is the strategy that the conservative right has used for years, right? You make government a laughing stock, right? You make it so ridiculous that you have like people like you and I having to respond to ridiculous thing after ridiculous thing after ridiculous thing, just over. You're always kind of like, and at some point, it becomes like this spaghetti in your head. It's just like bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. And if you let that kind of continue, then it helps, right? Because they work in the crevices, they work in the silence, they work in the confusion. And so what we have, spent a really long time trying to figure out is we, want to give people a mental model. Like I trained as a physician, but I also trained as an engineer.
Oh,
Talk about it much, but I have doctoral training. So this is what you get when you have like an MD, a PhD, and an MPH, right? Like all mixed together in one head.
oh my God. And a mother of three? Like,
Yeah.
wow. Are you superhuman? And I
I
want
don't
some of whatever vitamins you're taking, I want them.
I don't sleep as much as I should, but it's because the
Yeah.
work was so critical. But the way that we, as an engineer, you're trained to like simplify, simplify, simplify. And so what we have done is created this initiative and we're calling it is what is knowable, right? And so what this is a mental model. Basically, how do you keep all this information together in a way that's coherent, and a way that helps prepare people for the midterms? And we have
Okay.
3 tracks in it. Manufactured is the first one. That's what we shared. That's the political. We have a second one called Bring the Bolt Cutters that we're launching that talks about the legal, because that's just as important. Because right now, and it's the perfect. I was at one of the recent lives, someone mentioned in the comments about how the Supreme Court is basically has tied us to the rails, right? And I was just like, yeah, like that just kind of stayed in my head. And from that analogy, I just kept thinking, because I also do fiction writing. That's like my other brain, right? I was like, well,
Did you
how
just
do
say
you?
fiction writing?
Yeah, I do nonfiction. Yeah,
Stop.
yeah,
It's
fiction
too
writing.
much. It's
Yeah,
too
I do.
much. That's
Like
incredible.
I write under a pen name, and it's a completely different. It's similar theses, but a completely kind of different register altogether. But I'm just like, what do we do, right? And
Mhm.
that's where we came up with the phrase because we had the concepts in the work, but that person gave me the phrasing of bring the bolt cutters, right? Women are angry. We are going to try to make them angrier. And might have, tied us to the railing, but you have forgotten we brought the bolt cutters, right? We're not going down without a fight, right? But
Goosebumps.
then, and then the last part of it is the medical, like what's happening to people's health. And that's kind of in our paradigm of, crisis to care. And so we tell people there are 5 key questions that we want everyone asking. What do they want? Why do they want it? How are they doing it? Why are they wrong? That's the important thing. They are wrong.
Mhm.
And then the last one is how do we fight back? And that's kind of the curriculum that we want people to kind of wrap their brains around and start putting things in buckets, right? And instead of spending our energy on, just so much, they're just throwing so much shit at. Sorry, I forgot to leave.
You can swear. It's okay. It's okay.
All right. Yeah, I wrote this post that I'm like dropping F-bombs. I'm like, you know what? If there is a time to use F-bombs, it is now.
It's now.
It is
We
now.
host a show on Friday called Fucked Up Friday, every Friday, where we talk about the news.
Like, I am tired of being polite. I'm so sorry. I like if
No,
I can't
Yamicia, this is so fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, let's just start. The fact that we're even talking about this is so fucked up. I also want to interject before my, Swiss cheese brain forgets. Do you know the song Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple?
No, send it to me.
It's a song.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, let me go get the link.
Send it to me.
Yeah, I love Fiona Apple. And when you said that about getting the bolt cutters, I'm like, how do I know? Oh, it's Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find it while you're talking. Because you're gonna love this.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Because so much of this is trying to get what we know, how do we translate it so that people can carry it into their daily lives, right?
Right.
Because that's the work, right? Like that's part of the work is like, if you don't tether yourself to reality, then you could just make claims and just say, nonsense, right? And you can speak nonsense off the cuff. But we're tied to reality, right? So I have to give you facts and figures and data, and that takes work. Like, how do I get people to actually follow the work so that you can understand what they are doing, and make it fun and interesting at the same time? So that's a lot of what we kind of think about, is how to do that work and give people that framework. And we'll, we have finally, I think, reached, I guess, enough of a synthesis of it that I think, at least from my perspective, people will tell me, it at least presents like an articulate case that I hope people will really take into their everyday lives.
I love a good framework. I love a data-driven approach. I think this is amazing. Is this how you're getting the word out on Substack? Like, what is the marketer in me is like, how are you getting this framework out into the world? Because the world needs to hear this loudly right now.
So we're trying to talk to more people. Again, like I'm a super nerd. I'm like on my computer doing all the research, and I'm like we have like a data set that has like 5,000 data points just on tracking the stuff. And what I spend my day is like on QC and like validating data, but that doesn't get the message out, right? And so that's why I'm here talking to you today, is trying, and we need partners, right? We need active partnerships. We want to, create so we've created something called our Clinical Partners Network, and the clinical part is we define that very broadly. We mean anyone who's essentially in this fight. And so, yes, you could be a clinician, a birth worker, but also journalists, podcasters, people who write Substacks. And we want you to join so we can give you that information really, like tangibly, like in briefs every week, so that you have the data at the top of your fingertips of what they're doing, so that you can, so that we can all, that's one thing that the conservative right is really good on. Like, I don't know if they have like an email list and they all get their talking points every Monday. They all get their talking points. Ridiculous stuff to say, but we don't
what they do. You know what they do?
What do they do?
They pay influencers.
Yeah.
The left does not do this.
Yeah.
Though if they'd like to volunteer, they're looking. We volunteer as tribute. Any billionaire Democrats out there, it's a space where we're super losing, is we don't own the messaging. And when someone like Dr. Oz comes out and says, we're underbabied, we need to, like, he's not wrong. We are not reproducing at a level that is replacing our existing people, just like the OBGYN profession is not. But the story I'm working on is the why.
When you kill the people who produce the babies, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like the logic is just so backwards. The reason that people are scared to have a baby now. It's because it's scary to have a baby. It's scary. You want to tell women that this is the time they need to just throw caution to the wind and take out your IUD and get pregnant. You don't even know if you're gonna have an OB. You don't even know if you're gonna have an LED unit. Just like
Right.
right?
Let alone a job or health
Yeah,
insurance
or health
or
insurance. I mean,
a future.
you're not gonna have that. They don't want you to have that, right? Like that's the other thing. Like, and that's kind of the first thing is the first thing we want people to understand is what they want, right? Very clearly, they want women in the home, they want a Black underclass, and then
Yes.
they want white male privilege unchallenged. That's it, right? Everything follows from there.
Yes. Because what was the reason we are not replacing our birth rate, my understanding, and I'm no expert on this, is that the immigrant population in the US was making up a lot of the gap. And when they say we are underbabied, let's be clear, they mean we are under white babied. That's what they mean. And yeah, and they're not wrong.
Well, but the
There's
thing
a
they
very
don't
good reason for it, right?
but the thing they don't tell you is that their policies, what it has done? It has caused people to get more permanent sterilization.
Yeah,
I mean, it caused more abortions, right? Like everything that
yeah,
they say that they don't want, their policies, we can directly see the curve, right? You have people, young women, young men who are saying, tie my tubes. I don't have kids. I'm done. You know?
yeah.
And then you get surprised. But when you make it so untenable to have a baby, right? You literally make it
Mhm.
so we're the only it's like so absurd when you start putting it all together. We're the only country that does not give a woman like protected leave, right?
No,
So
I know.
you can there's no way you can afford the baby. There is no healthcare insurance to actually have the baby. And you're almost guaranteeing, unless I have a really good job, I'm going to lose my job. So how am I going to take care of this baby? You take away SNAP. I can't even give the baby milk. You took away my WIC.
Right. Oh, just breastfeed. It's really easy. No one ever has problems with breastfeeding.
And to breastfeed well, you know what you need to breastfeed well? You
I
need to
do. I've done it twice.
yeah, you need a lot of time. I have 3 kids. Yeah, you need a lot of time, really good nutrition, really good hydration. Like you need essentially to be healthy. You need to
And you
be
need not to be
very
stressed out.
yes.
Yeah, with my firstborn, she nursed like a champ. Like immediately, it was pretty easy. Although, ouch, for a solid month, it's quite painful. But then it worked great with my second one. I was working at a really stressful corporate job. I had to go back after a C-section. I think I was off for 16 weeks, which is nothing in baby land. And I tried to pump, and it was just like nothing. My body had nothing to give, and it sucked.
Yeah.
Um, and I was one of the lucky ones. I had a good job to go back to and health insurance, but yeah, she did not get the experience that her older sister had with the nutrition of breast milk. That's for sure. I realize I generally ask my guests on Thursdays first what feminism means to them in 2026. And I think you are demonstrating this exponentially with all of the work you're doing, but I'd love to hear your definition. What does feminism mean to you in 2026?
Oh, for me, it's very clear. It's my daughter, right?
Yeah.
My daughter is very independent. She, her first words were, I kid you not, like I know. She loved
I
her.
know.
I know, yeah. Like it's like
Oh my
she,
God, I love her.
yeah, she had like a phrase. Her favorite song is from if people know the movie Vivo. Like I march the beat of my own drum. Like
Oh, I don't
that is
know.
her. Like that's her encapsulated. She has a sharp mouth. She told me, Mommy, I don't want to have any kids because you work too hard.
My daughters have said the same, where they're like, this doesn't seem like a great deal.
No, but my daughter's 4. But she's like,
Yes.
she's like, no, I don't like when you get to play. She asks me that all the time, like, when do you get to play? Because I'm always like,
Oh,
do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to take care of you guys. And she's like, but you don't get to play at all. I'm like, no, I don't. So she's very independent. Let me just say that.
yeah.
And she's very smart. Both me and my husband went to MIT. We have doctorates at MIT from MIT.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the
I'm gonna
thing
just do this and be like, oh, a smart man who chooses a smart woman and two MIT PhDs. Your house must be dinner conversation must be off the hook.
But yeah, yes, I mean, yes, yeah, it ranges from dirty diapers to, my husband's a rocket, he's studied aerospace
Aerospace.
engineering, so he's like
Yes. Oh
rocket
yeah.
scientist. But the point I want to make is like, it's very hard for smart Black children. They get punished. It's very, very hard. And then you add on you're a woman, you add on that she, has been born into relative privilege, right? And so for her, she doesn't have these concepts of smallness, right? It just doesn't compute for her. Like she hasn't been born into that, and so she's going to enter a world where people are not going to know what to do with her. Quite literally, they're not going to know what to do with
Mm,
her because she's going to be smarter than them. She's going to have a quick mouth. She's Black, and she's very cute and clever, right? And so that is a recipe for being targeted. And so that is my
mm,
definition of feminism. Like I want a world where she actually has choices, where she's not going to
yes.
be, um, be essentially punished for who she is. Because I'm in compared to her, like I'm very, quote unquote tame. And I have been when I tell you, like, I have faced, like, trauma in, like, work situations, I mean, absolute trauma, like, to the point where this might be too much TMI, I
There's no
am
such thing. Here, go.
where I am, I had, I don't share this often, but after you've had kids, especially for breastfeeding for a long time, it delays your cycle. And I was in a work environments where I was not allowed to use the bathroom, right? And had like my first menstrual cycle and completely soiled myself. My husband had to bring a change of clothes because I was not allowed to use the bathroom, right?
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
once
Just
you
because you were so busy, they wouldn't give you a break? Because I've heard this happens with
yeah,
nurses and
it's
doctors.
it's it's so it's yeah, there's so much to the story, but
Oh my
um
God, I'm so sorry.
I used to pump in patient bays, right? Like
Mhm.
pre-opping patients, because that's the only way. That's the only way I could breastfeed my kids. Is literally a patient would be there. The nurses were so kind. They would literally just, you
Form a
know,
wall.
yeah, exactly. And I would pump, right? Because there were no pumping areas anywhere near where I could still do the work I need to do, and still keep everything moving on time. And
Oh my gosh.
so when I say like, there is like trauma, that's trauma, right?
Yeah.
And the trajectory that we're heading is so much worse than that. Um, so that's what keeps me moving.
Good. My daughters are 16 and 18, and same. I'm sending my eldest off to college across the country to a red state next year. And it's with an IUD
Yeah,
because I'm like, what are we supposed to do? Other like
yeah.
uh I literally like get it while you can.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Do
I
you,
tell yeah.
yeah. Do you think, and I know this is not a data driven approach, but it's your expert opinion. What will happen with birth control when I hear we are under babied, I hear the Overton window moving so that things like maybe we don't allow women to opt to sterilize. Maybe we don't allow birth control pills or IUDs anymore because we're under babied.
Yeah.
Is that the
No,
reality we're heading toward, or am I overreacting?
no, I don't think you're overreacting at all. And I don't, and it is data driven, right? There has been a push to classify certain birth control methods like IUDs as abortifactants, and they're not.
Mm.
And all of that, right? All of the legal work that is going into like fetal personhood, all of those elements are to come and target, you know, those individual elements. So no, they're definitely going after birth control. They're going after I mean, that's what the attack on the 14th Amendment is, right? Because that's a lot of the premise, right? It's you have the right under our constitution to control essentially, your like basically your body, right? And the things that extend from that, the things that happen in your household. I mean, a
Yes.
lot of the thing that protects contraception is legislation around the right for a married couple to decide to have contraception, right? If you go back,
Yes.
and that's why we think understanding the history is so important. If you go back and like trace where this stuff comes from, so yeah, they're coming for all of that. They're coming for absolutely all of that for sure.
I read once as you're talking, I have this distant memory, so I'm a little reluctant to share it as truth. Maybe you can check me if it's not, that the man who invented birth control, like the pills, intended it only for married couples with husband's consent
Oh
and
yeah,
was
yeah,
horrified at how it was used to
yeah.
liberate women to be sexually active.
Yeah, I
Is that
don't know
true?
about so I don't know about that history in particular, so I don't wanna misspeak, but yes, I mean, the underlying, you know, body of work, the underlying philosophy, the underlying history, yes. Birth control was very much thought to be something that happened within a household, and how they define a household is husband and wife, right?
Right.
And that is where the protection under you know that that's the legal kind of foundation for this protection. And then what has been built upon that are all these additional things like gay marriage. And, I mean, there's like, and that's how the law kind of piles on itself, right? And so that's why the fall of Roe was so destructive,
Mm.
because it essentially, was the foundation for all of these things that we take to be like self-evident, to be just true, right? That a person should be able to, I have an IUD right now. Just like
Of
can
course
the
you.
can, like the legislation, it's the number one choice for OBGYNs. I'm married. Can the legislation can someone in our state legislature just be like, no, you take out your IUD, because I will get pregnant, right? I've gotten pregnant pretty easily with my other kids.
Yeah.
Very likely, if I didn't have an IUD, I would get pregnant. And me and my husband are actively talking about, do we want, because I'm at the very end of my reproductive life, right? It's a big
Yeah.
decision. We have 3 kids. Can we actually handle it? Can we actually, these are real discussions. And it's not something that and that's intuitive for people, right? And that's the other part of the argument that we're trying to make is like they can try to confuse you, right? Don't let them confuse you,
Yes.
because there are some things that are just true. They follow from concepts that have been held for thousands of years, right? And it is about, and that's what we call it, knowable, right? It's knowable through human reason, right? And that is in plain English, what I'm saying is human dignity is a fact about what we
Yes.
are, right? It's not a feeling. It's not preference, right? So
Yes.
if human dignity is real, then you have to defend it everywhere, right? And you have to defend it in all of these areas. And we kind of intuitively know that a part of human dignity is that you should have the right to control what happens to your body, right? You should have
Yes.
that right. Um, and when you take a step back, right, and you see how they have really contorted these arguments that we all can like agree upon, right? And what they have essentially done is taken the part that serves their ends, right? Because let's just be clear, if we want to talk about, abortion, let's actually talk about it, right? Let's talk about the pro-life movement in its origin, because the pro-life movement was very liberal, right? These were very progressive. If you walk it
Really?
all back, yes, yes, oh yes, because it's based on, so you know. I've studied this deeply because I'm a practicing Catholic, right? And so people get surprised when I tell them that. And to me, it's every all of this is logically consistent, and it is, for if you frame it within concepts of around like natural law, essentially, um, uh, there is a moral order woven into reality itself, right? And that is
Yes.
knowable through human reasoning. That has underlined the philosophies of like Martin Luther King, but also Thomas Aquinas, right? Aristotle, like thinkers throughout the generations have understood that, right? And
Yeah.
this is really around human dignity. And so, what the original position, pro life position, was in its essence progressive, right? It was anti coercion, it was pro mother, it was pro
Mm.
poor, it was anti-death penalty, and it was anti-war, right? Because all of this, because you can't just take one part of a philosophy and then ignore all the rest of it. And what people have to understand is a lot of the, originally when Roe was signed, it was bipartisan. There was a lot of Republican support, right? It the anti, the consolidation, the political consolidation around the pro-life movement is actually a movement around pro-segregation. That's what people have to understand. It is about racism. It is about, it emerged as a way of making an argument, and you can trace the history about why segregation was bad. Or sorry, why anti-segregation was bad, right? Be,
Anti-segregation is bad. There's so many negatives. Okay, I've got it now.
right. And so, because you can't just like say that, right? You can't just, if a political figure just says, I just don't want black kids with my white kids, right? That's not an
Yeah.
argument that like gets people up out of bed, right? And so how do you actually make that argument, right? You couch it in a philosophy that is completely distorted, and that is what the modern pro-life movement is. It's taking that the concepts around natural law and
Mm.
completely unraveling it, completely taking out the framing about human dignity, and couching their political agenda within a pro-life framework, right? And so you get so confused about, should babies survive? Should moms survive? Like putting babies against moms and killing babies. You get so lost in that argument while they are doing the real work of, again, going back to their fundamental aims, putting women back in the home,
Right.
suppressing the the black population to have a permanent underclass, and ensuring white male sovereignty, right? Because
Yeah.
how do you do that effectively? Well, you make sure women cannot control their reproductive
Their
life.
bodies.
Because if a woman can get pregnant at any point in time, then is she is dependent, quite
Yeah.
literally, right? Because if you've ever been pregnant, it is a very vulnerable time. If you cannot control that, then that puts women in a position where they cannot live independently without men, and that is
Mhm.
a lot of what it is organizing these movements.
Absolutely. And it's really easy to forget that the freedoms that women like us enjoy are so relatively new. They're within my lifetime. They're just before yours. I'm a little older than you. But in addition to the Roe v. Wade passing in the early 70s, we got the right to have mortgages and cars and credit cards
You couldn't
You
even
know they're coming after that next too, right?
exactly. You couldn't even, before you couldn't even assign a
Yeah.
lease, right?
Nope.
You had to have a male relative co-sign a lease for you, right? You couldn't even have a
Yep.
credit card.
Yeah.
This is all relatively new, right? Because what
Yes.
that does, so when they say that women have like corrupted society, what they are essentially saying is women, their ability to live independent from men has completely fundamentally changed the power structures that we think society needs to have. And so
Yes.
everything that we see around, just like, we're having this conversation right now, they're having a parallel conversation about it's these women, it's these feminists, it's these women who
Oh,
just,
yes.
wanna have their independent lives, they just wanna do this, just wanna be reckless, and that's why society looks the way it does, right?
So
Um,
reckless. We want to have jobs and homes and live fulfilling lives. How crazy, right?
right, but it's inconvenient, right? It's very
Well,
inconvenient.
it
Um,
means that we have a higher standard if we want to allow a male partner into our lives, that we don't just need someone who will fit the bill and keep us in credit.
Right, but we also have to say, like, who are the men who do this, right? Because it's not all
Yeah.
men that do this, right? It's a
Oh,
certain type of male thinking, right? It's a certain type of thinking, that's underlined, honestly, in this is like what we try to describe, this is what like impotence looks like at scale, right? If you cannot control
yes.
if you cannot control women's desires, right? What do you want to do instead? You control their bodies, right? And this is
Right.
what this looks like as a psychology, right? At scale. If you have even taken, and I don't
Yes.
recommend you do it too often, read some of this misogynistic literature. It's fucking twisted. You're just like, it is very twisted. And you're just like, man, you really believe that? It's very sad.
Can you see? I'm still stuck on this is impotence at scale.
Yeah.
That framing is so good. And I'm going to need to sit with that for a minute because it's so good. But you're correct that um, I've heard this said about the US, but I think it's also a parallel between men and women. I think it was Charlotte Clymer who posted this a few weeks ago about the US of like, people are whining about immigrants coming and taking our jobs and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, that is just some weak ass shit. If you think that you are being bested, then get better.
Yeah.
The US is a nation of fighters. And
Yeah.
why are we succumbing to these whiny ass arguments? And I think the same thing is happening when you look, especially at younger generations, and how women and men are bifurcating. And the women are getting the degrees, they're getting the jobs, they're buying the homes, and the men are like, but no, you don't need me for anything. I
Yeah.
just read an article. I jokingly sent it to the guy I'm dating, and I was like, um, I have something really big to tell you. Um, I own a home because it was all about these women who are, entering their early 20s, early 30s. They're professional and they're like, I want to build equity. I'm going to buy a condo. And the men they're dating, it's made them undateable because they
Yeah.
keep encountering all these men who are like, well, if you have that, then what do you need me for?
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
like men,
They can't
lots
consent,
of things keep
right?
up.
Exactly. Partnership, right? Like
Yeah.
actual relationship. The hard work of being
Yes.
an agreeable person, a person that you want to be interesting. There's a
Right.
lot of things, but that's hard. So this is why I do fiction
Yeah.
writing. So in I have a scene where one of my characters is talking to our partner. It's basically asking, like, why would anyone follow Trump, right? Like, why is this appealing to men? And the male character essentially said, "Oh, when you look at, like, for example, President Obama, right?
Yeah.
When you look at him, he's a good husband. He's educated. He's a professor. He's won all these awards. He's articulate. He can play basketball. Well, man, if that is
That's
the
hard.
example of success, that is hard. Like, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. Like, I can't do that. You lose kind of before even starting. But then you look at Trump and
Right.
you're just like, Oh,
I bet.
he's fat, he's ugly, he's rude, he's unkind, and look at him, he's so rich.
He's-
Well, I can do that. If he can do that, and that messaging is so powerful because I can be that. I can be
And he's
fat.
a bully.
Exactly.
All I have to do is try to dominate, and that's what men do. Get out
Yeah.
my caveman club and hit him on the head and drag him home.
Well, there's a certain framing of
Yeah,
masculinity that is not, right?
yeah,
Um, and that's the other thing, like, we're not anti-male at all, right? We're anti that framing, right? If
yeah.
that's how you want to live your life, literally choosing the path of a loser, because we're losing. Let's just be clear right now. We are
Oh
just
yeah,
our we and if you I'm sorry, if you turn on your TV and you're just like, this is what I'm talking about,
yeah.
then I mean, we have a in medicine, you obviously evaluate people's mental status, right? And one of those things are judgment.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm clinically able to evaluate your judgment. You have poor judgment. That's poor judgment, right?
hundred
That
percent.
is a clinical thing I can make an assessment on. Does it make sense? Does it make logical sense that you have come to this conclusion from the information that you are receiving? And the answer is no, it doesn't. It doesn't make any logical sense. Um, and there are so many people that are so committed to this philosophy that they are willing to essentially, I mean, to flip that analogy back, they're actually have tied themselves to the railway tracks, right? Because they are so fixed on just doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, and they're watching the train roll right over them.
Yes, my training, my schooling, I'm a speech pathologist, double degreed, which is funny. I don't practice anymore, but that's what I went to school for. I practiced medical speech pathology. But I had a professor years ago who said one of the few things I really remember from grad school. And he said it in reference to smokers because he knew we would be seeing a lot of smokers, the vets outside the
Yeah,
hospital smoking through their stoma holes. And this very simple line he said was, people would rather die than change a habit. Many people. You are not going to change them from being smokers, even though it's killing them.
right.
And I think of that phrase so often, and I think about it in terms of MAGA. And
Yeah,
I shifted to so many people would rather die than change a belief
yeah,
because it's so entrenched and integrated into their identity that it's equivalent to a death, that they're like, I can't let this go.
yeah,
And so it's just so hard to think of how we get around something that's that entrenched because
yeah.
like your analogy you opened with of like it would take 15 years to create more OBs. It's such a long start. Like how long does it I had this belief for a while of like once the boomers die off or age out of voting, the younger voters are going to come up and it's going to be a blue wave and it's going to be great. And now I'm like, oh shit, except the young men got commandeered. And I don't know
Well,
how we change that.
Well, I mean, they're doing a lot of work to help us. We have to do our part though and get the message out
Yeah.
because if if they were if the person that they because it takes a certain psychology to be able to hold all of these contradictions in your mind.
Yeah.
And the way of thinking about, I mean, it's like sociopathy, right? It's not normal. Like this is unhealthy. Like a person and that combination is really hard to find. And so they have found it in this person of Trump, who is an absolute moron. And what he has done is put every strategic advantage that they've had in place and is quickly compromising it. And so I think there's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. But I think there's going to come a time where everyone's going to pretend like I never supported that. Like this is ridiculous. Like I never voted for that. This Trump thing, it's going to be so, um, it's
Right.
like, it's like post World War II Germany, right? It's just going to be like, I don't know who these people were that supported this, but like, look at me.
I was
And
just following orders. I don't know.
yeah, because it's so illogical when you even just take one, when you just stop for 1 second and just say, like, look at what the consequences have been. Um, I mean, medicine itself is decimated. I mean, there are entire bodies of medicine that are just gone. Like, all of the progress we have made, like, in cancer research,
Yes.
maternal research, like, mental health, like, gone. Like, when I say gone, like, literally, they just, like, axed out those line items out of the budget. Like, they do not exist. Like, those line
Right.
items went to 0. There's one poor the office might technically exist. There's, like, one poor guy who's, like, sitting in that office, pretending like they actually did work. But these were real things, like prams. What actually monitored pregnancy outcomes, defunded,
I saw
practically
that
funded, right?
article.
And so the way that we know that Black women die 3 to 4 times more likely, the way that we know that maternal overdoses are one of the leading causes of death, the way that we know that postpartum depression is such a big problem, right? The way that we know that homicides are the leading cause of death of pregnant women. I want to just underline that again. Women are not being killed primarily by preeclampsia, hemorrhage, infection, all those things. They're being killed by their partner. The way that we know that is somebody has to collect that data. Those people are gone. The people who monitor for things like infectious diseases, we have a syphilis epidemic that we try to tell people about. Like, if you
Right.
don't use contraception, if you don't use a condom, this is the time to start. I am treating patients for syphilis, right? These are
Crazy.
things that we haven't seen, and this is a devastating disease. Babies
Yes.
born to syphilitic mothers, that's a devastating disease, right?
For
The
the
ta
baby.
For the baby and mom, yes. For the baby, yes, it's devastating. Congenital syphilis is horrible, right? And the rates have gone up. I mean, it's like ridiculous. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's like thousands of percent. I mean, it's like we are like I want to say it's like 100x, 200x, 300, like a lot more cases. Not a small thing. It's like a huge epidemic, right? The way that but the way that we knew that that was coming is somebody again had to do the monitoring. They had to monitor that for these infectious diseases, right? The CDC, that's what that means when the CDC gets defunded. Like the people who monitor for your killer gonorrhea, for your next AIDS epidemic, right? Those people no longer have a job. Like that does not exist, right? The people who monitor for drug shortages, there are going to be shortages of common chemotherapeutic drugs. There are already shortages of antibiotics, like the antibiotics that treat syphilis, meaning nobody is making those drugs anymore. So you're going to go for your cancer treatment, and they are not going to have it available to you.
And then they start making crazy ass choices of who gets the meds.
And then you have all the consequences that spiral because of that.
Oh my gosh. It has been terrifying and wonderful to talk to you about all of this. People need to know this. And I already have people in mind who I'm like, we need to get you on some bigger platforms so that you can get these messages out more broadly. Dr. Eric has been in the chat. Dr. Eric Lolov, I know you spoke with him. Thank you for all your amazing comments, Eric and everyone else in the chat today. It has been amazing. We do ask all of our guests on the Daily Whatever Show one final question when they come on for the first time. It lightens the mood, and it also allows me to say, please come back, because we would love to have you back. But I know you're not Gen X. Lawrence and I are both Gen X, and that is the origin of this question. It's very hard hitting. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. What is the most Gen X song of all time?
Oh,
No wrong answers. Just whatever pops into mind is a good answer.
yes. I mean, the first thing that came into I don't know if they're Gen X, but the first thing that came into my mind was Nirvana. I don't know
Yes.
why. Maybe maybe that's what I'm just like in the
No, that's
thinking that that's like
Smells Like
the
Teen Spirit is
yeah.
probably that is unquestionably anthemic for Gen X. Yes. Oh my gosh. So excellent pick. We shout out to Jason and Yanni in the chat who keep up a Spotify and a YouTube list of all of the picks that our guests have given. So if you ever want to like deep dive into some Gen X music across wild spectrum of not gender, of genre, Spectrum of gender is a totally different thing. Those are available on Spotify and on YouTube. So
I want to leave people with something that they can do because we're not,
do
you know,
it.
this is not the time to despair. This is the time to get activated. So what we need people to do, we need you to register. We need you to donate. We need you to run for something. We need you to call your sister. We need you to call your mother. Call the women that are in your lives, right? We need you to understand that the Roberts Court has tied us to the track, but they forgot that we brought the bolt cutters and we are angry. And when women get angry, women are one of the most I tell people women are the most effective institution that we have left that can save us. You have to think of yourself as an institution, right? And we need to mobilize and we need to let them know that the train is coming, but we are not the ones who are going to get hit.
That's me cheering you on. Beautifully stated. We're going to clip that one and share it everywhere. I just put your Substack in the chat because I can see Substack makes it so hard to link your accounts, the extra steps. You are not linked up at the top, but please go subscribe to Dr. Connor. It's so important. Her work is so important.
And you know, there's so much to talk about, but we're doing a lot of cool stuff. We're building a platform for women, if people are interested, that is independent, not funded by VC, that allows for suppressed voices. And you know, we want people to join us. And so, if you're angry, if you want a place that offers an alternative, we're building that.
Yes to all of those questions. Yes, I want an alternative. Yes, angry. Yes, I want to be part of whatever you're doing because I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad you reached out. I'm so glad we got to do this show.
Yeah.
I so have more people you need to talk to. So I'm going to message you. And yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow is Friday, so it is Fucked Up Friday. We will be recapping the news of the week, and we have our friend Qasim Rashid coming back to the show tomorrow. That should be spectacular. So please join us, same time, same place, here on the Daily Whatever Show. And I will just end with a simple love you, mean it, like we always do. Thank you so much, Dr. Connor, for being here. It means the world. Thanks to everyone in the chat for being here. Please subscribe to Dr. Connor. Please subscribe to the Daily Whatever Show so you can keep up with all of our shenanigans. And yes, and we hope that you feel better and you get your voice back.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye, all.
Bye.